What would happen if you stacked all humans in a single pile? Imagine for a moment gathering every single human being on Earth, all 8 billion of us, and stacking us into one enormous pile, not in a cruel or violent way, but as a strange thought experiment to see what would happen. First, we'd need to choose a location big enough and stable enough to hold the combined weight of humanity. A flat plain, maybe a large sports stadium, wouldn't do. We'd need something massive, like a reinforced platform or a vast concrete plane, to keep the pile from sinking into the ground. If we somehow managed to teleport every person into this pile at the same instant, the first thing you'd notice is the sheer size of it. The average human weighs about 62 kilograms, so the total mass would be roughly 500 million metric tons. That's about the weight of a billion grand pianos stacked together. In terms of volume, if you imagine people squished together like soft, irregularly shaped blocks, our combined body mass could form a tower several kilometers high, taller than Mount Everest if the base was narrow enough. But of course, humans are squishy, not bricks. Gravity would quickly compress the lower layers, crushing bones and organs under the pressure, while the top layers would slump outward, creating more of a mound than a neat skyscraper. From a distance, this gigantic mound of human bodies would be horrifying and surreal, a writhing, shifting hill of skin, hair, and clothing. The people in the center and bottom would have almost no air, leading to suffocation within seconds. Heat would build up quickly from millions of warm bodies pressed together. The pile's core could become dangerously hot, possibly exceeding body-safe temperatures within minutes. This wouldn't just be uncomfortable, it would be lethal. Humans are not designed to be packed so tightly for long. The smell would become overwhelming in hours. Sweat, breath, and other bodily functions would mix into a dense, humid fog. Without space or ventilation, the pile would essentially become a living, human-shaped furnace, slowly baking those trapped inside. If the pile were outdoors, birds might circle overhead, curious about the massive movement below. Insects would swarm the edges. If the pile were indoors or in a confined space, it would quickly become uninhabitable for anyone inside. Now let's imagine the pile's dimensions. If all 8 billion people stood shoulder to shoulder, we'd take up about 1,000 square kilometers, about the size of a large city. But in a pile, we'd occupy far less ground space, trading area for height. If compressed tightly enough, the mound might cover just a few football fields in area, but rise into the clouds. Of course, the higher it goes, the more unstable it becomes. Humans are not stackable like Lego bricks. Gravity would constantly push the sides outward, causing avalanches of people to tumble down. If you looked at it from space, it might look like a strange organic growth on the planet's surface. A pale, slightly pinkish mountain dotted with dark specks of clothing and hair. From a scientific perspective, the pressure and heat inside the pile would cause serious biological breakdown within days. Decomposition would begin at the center long before the outer layers cooled. Eventually, the pile would collapse into itself, becoming more like a massive heap of organic matter than a stack of living people. The moral and ethical implications of this scenario are, of course, horrifying. It's not something we could ever actually do, but as a purely theoretical experiment, it reveals something fascinating. Humanity, for all its individuality, is physically very small in the grand scheme of the planet. Our total mass is minuscule compared to mountains, oceans, or even some of the largest man-made structures. Yet when imagined in one place, we're big enough to reshape the land around us, even if only for a moment. And perhaps the strangest part? Once the pile was gone, whether dismantled or left to nature, the Earth would look the same as it always had. The sky wouldn't change, the mountains wouldn't notice, and the oceans would keep on moving. All our billions of lives, so spread out and varied in reality, would vanish back into the vastness of the planet. In the end, stacking all humans into one pile is not just a thought experiment about physics and biology. It's a reminder of how small we are and how much more meaningful we are when we're not crushed together, but spread across the world, living our individual stories.